Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stories Around Azeroth. We're on episode 9 today. It's on a different time, airing live over on Twitch, because I've just got back from holiday, essentially. It's been a fun time away, but we're back on it. And joining me, as always, is the most lovable gnome in the universe, one Mr. Frazley. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, and you always make me blush with the lovable, because usually people say I'm the most puntable gnome across Azeroth, but when you say lovable...
lovable can mean several different things. I could love to punt you.
Okay, hey, just know that you make my cheeks go red.
Ah, that's it, isn't it? But yes, we are here to talk about all things Azerothian, what we've been doing this week in the game since we've last chatted. We'll be talking about the Ashara cinematic since Mr. Frazley has now seen it compared to last week. And we'll be doing a quick talk on the Race to World First, as that has begun today for the US servers, I should say.
And tomorrow for you.
And tomorrow for the EU, but I don't do Mythic, so it'll all be about Method and the rest of the EU guilds catching up. But more on that later. Mr. Frazley, what have you been up to in the world of Warcraft this week?
Since we last chatted, I have been working on just all my reps, so really trying to get things done. I have every zone explored, and now I am up to Honored for both. So kind of every day, just been doing what you said, going in and knocking out. And most days I'm able to get in and like clear Mechagon first and then clear Nazjatar. And after Draven told me on Epic Fail Podcast, I am now doing contracts. So I've got it whenever I do a... Oh, not a good thing?
It is a good thing. It's just that they are insanely expensive right now. I don't think they're worth the cost to make get them made.
Mine was 13,000, so not too bad.
Again, I don't think they're worth the cost, basically. Oh. Because the only world quests you should be doing, if you're doing anything on a raiding basis, is just the ones for your Azerite.
Okay.
Which is all I do when I do the world tour. I don't think they're worth the... Like, I tried messing around with contracts when the game first launched, but considering they only give 10 rep a quest... A world quest, it's not worth the effort that they're printed on. That's a personal opinion.
Yeah.
Some people like to min max, and that's why I believe some people started hitting Exalted. I believe 2-3 days ago. But
yeah, and like for me, I did it because I'm trying to hit some of those AP as well. So I've been hitting Azerite Power because I'm getting a lot of the gear through Benthic. So right. I figured when I go in, I try to like hit the world quest that gave me AP. So I'm up to 48 AP now, and up to 393 eye level. So I'm finally
getting there.
You're
close to hitting that 400.
Yeah, and still pretty far away on the Heart of Azeroth, but thinking that because I was doing a lot of irons and alts.
Yep,
so
yep.
And once I can fly again, I might be heading back to alts for a little bit.
I think, yeah. I mean, if you're sick of the Mechagon and the Nazjatar grind, if you're not going to raid... To be fair, if you're not going to raid, I don't think it's worth... Although, once you get the ability to fly, I think it will just make questing a little bit easier. Because there's nothing in BFA that's on the scale of, say, the Warlord treasures. And the best thing it will do is help you get around to the Alliance/Horde invasions for questing the XP bonus.
And I also want to do, there's like achievement that I'm trying to get, like some of the defeat these rares. So I'm going to do a lot of achievement hunting as well once I get flying. However, I just want flying for the achievement. I want to have that feeling, because when I do that, I feel like the expansion, to me, it's done. I hate to say it, but when I get flying, at least it feels like I made a good mark in this expansion. I'll enjoy the rest of it until the next one, and I'm going to love it. But it's kind of my swan song to that expansion saying, I enjoyed you were great, let's enjoy the rest of the few months we have until the next one, or a year even. But
oh yeah, no, we're at least a year away from the next expansion, at least.
Yeah,
but yeah, is it just been the constant rep grind at the moment?
Yep, just the rep grind, because I haven't had a lot of time to do other stuff, but I've basically just been playing WoW and enjoying a lot of WoW. And also almost killing my computer by spilling coffee all over the table. That's a whole different story.
That didn't happen in the world of Warcraft, though, Mr. Frazley. However, it is a very entertaining story nonetheless. So, today, for me, was a little bit more eventful in World of Warcraft than I actually thought it would be. So, I've done Mechagon. I've done all my normal weekly stuff. So, like, in the 2/3 days I've had to play WoW since Wednesday reset in the EU. I've done my islands for the week. I've done Mechagon on my main. I did Mechagon on my main again today to help people who weren't able to do it during the week so that they've got their vision of perfection. I hit honor level 40 today, so I got a new shiny horse mount.
Nice.
What else did I do today? I'm starting to hit Exalted on some of the older reps now on the Demon Hunter. And I think I'm like, with the exception of the Order of Embers, which I just need to go questing in Drosvar for, I think. I'm about one emissary away from hitting Exalted on pretty much all of them. So I'm about an emissary away from Mechagon. Well, Mechagon does get emissaries. But another emissary for the Encoans, for some of the other ones and bits and pieces. I did other things. Oh yeah, I hit Azeroth, the Heart of Azeroth 58 today. So
Nice.
I need 85k for the next one, but I'm sure that'll drop by about 10,000 before when it resets tomorrow. And
did you do the 58 story or that 60 story?
There's no story at 58. The next story is at 60.
Okay.
And 60 is the last story, which is with the rare dragon fight. So I'm looking forward to that. I think I can hit it. I think I'll be able to hit it by this time next week. Probably not by the time we sit down and record next time, though. But we'll see.
You are definitely the one that takes that song to heart. Gotta play WoW. Gotta play WoW every day.
Gotta play WoW every day. Absolutely. We stepped into Heroic Eternal Palace on Wednesday, and we got the first 3 bosses down. But it feels like some of the guild were missing some gear / Heart of Azeroth neck levels and bits and pieces in order to really push Ashvane over. And some people didn't really understand it. I think we'll come back to it next week, and people will be more aware because they went and cleared it on normal while I was away on holiday this week as well. So there's that to worry about.
So I take it your guild's not called Strawberry Puppy Kisses.
No, we have not got the world first heroic clear, unfortunately. Clearing it in 1 week would be too easy anyway. Who wants to do that, eh?
Yeah, make it to it. For me, I'm gonna clear it by myself when the expansion's over. No.
Well, Elifar's out. Well, Elifar's out today for you. In fact, Wing 1's open for you today, so
I should jump in at some point.
You're probably going to need to up your eye level a little bit, I think. I think you need 400 base level to be able to queue for it. I'm not sure.
You mean Azara doesn't want me in? Okay, fine, Azara.
Just remember when you actually, if you do actually do it and you get there, like /flirt with Azara.
Okay, I'll definitely do it.
Brilliant. But speaking of Ashara, with the US opening of the Eternal Palace last week, there were many guilds that were racing to get the world first clear on normal, and the Wowhead team, I believe, managed to do it, and thus the cinematic was revealed, which, as we've been told for the longest time, once Ashara is defeated, we should know who we are facing as the final boss in 8.3. Mr. Frazley, you've seen this now, yes?
Yes.
So I was correct and I wasn't correct. Like, we don't kill Ashara, and that's why there's a chest to loot. But Ashara does die. So, give me the rundown. What were your feelings on the cinematic?
It was definitely interesting. I mean, it was like, I was a little confused what that thing was that was opening up. Maybe because I didn't see the actual kill video. I don't see what they, but like, something opens up and this black thing.
So the main crux of the Ashara fight is that she's playing a game with us for the most part, and the area that we're in to fight Ashara is literally called the Circle of Stars, which is mentioned by Il'gynoth and everything else. and essentially we are using the Heart of Azeroth to weaken the Titan chains, and that's what all there are panels in the fight that are used to do that, and essentially it comes out during the fight that Magni was used as a pawn by her and N'Zoth, and the only way that they could feasibly get it, the Titan stuff, was to use a Titan relic, which is why having the Heart of Azeroth was there to do it, because it essentially is the blood of a Titan, which means that they could use that to fuel the power to break Titan chains.
That's bloody brilliant.
Well, it's the Shara. She is a master manipulator, so. But yes,
yeah.
Carry on. Your thoughts on the cinematic?
And then it was kind of cool that thing released, and like all of a sudden like you hear like the echoey laughter, and I take it that is N'Zoth being released.
There was no echoey laughter, unless you're talking about the big type foghorn when the chains broke and the eye opened.
Yeah. Because
I think it was more. It's meant to be like the ripple of sound through the water as the eye opens, and it's meant to be like a danger sound, because essentially this is the first time that an old god has been fully released. Because Cthulhu is still essentially shackled, so's Yogg, and Usage is dead. So this is the first time that an old god is open. Now, we saw an eye open. Now, knowing what we know about Yogg-Saron, because Saronite is obviously Yogg-Saron's blood forming on the surface, and Yogg-Saron is essentially the size of the entirety of Northrend. Like, he is that landmass. So,
wow.
It'd be interesting to see how big N'Zoth actually is. I don't think we'll see it. Whether we'll fight him or an avatar of him at Ny'alotha will be interesting to see.
So would you say Ny'alotha would be 8.3, or do you think it's next expansion?
I think it's hard to say. I mean, if they want to stay true to where the expansion is headed, the story direction is either one of two things at this point. It's Ny'alotha rises, but that means we are definitely going to fight N'Zoth, or we deal with Sylvanas, which, to be fair, could happen in a Ny'alotha raid zone, because there's clearly some trickery going on there with N'Zoth and everything else. The current word on the rumour mill is that she kind of saw all this coming, and she is going to martyr herself, and everything, all the machinations that she's had over the course of this entire expansion has been to get the Alliance and the Horde to work together. Martyring herself so that the Horde leaders pull together and work with each other.
But what's her gain by martyring her?
She dies, I imagine. That would be her gain.
Dies, like, finally dies?
Yeah, finally dies. Death as an escape.
Okay, I could... So instead of like Garrosh, where Garrosh didn't want to die, so Sylvanas wants to die.
She could very well do. Remember, she wanted to die at the end of Wrath of the Lich King. She tried to kill herself because she couldn't kill Arthas.
Interesting.
There's a lot of stories that are left to be told right now. There is everything to do with the Shadowlands and everything else, and Gul Tarok, and everything to do with that story. I think the Black Empire is where they're pushing. It means that we're going to get another expansion full of purple, though, like Cataclysm. So,
hey, it's following along. I mean, or no, it's not quite following along in because we had our green, then we haven't had our blue expansion. For a while there was the expansions like the blue, green.
Yeah. It's interesting. Did you enjoy the cinematic at least? Because it seems to have been very divisive in terms of what people's reaction was to it, because we were expecting to see more than just a shadowy tentacle. I assume I think people wanted to see N'Zoth. I don't think they've got the complete Eldritch look down for him, even though they had the idea for N'Zoth in Hearthstone already and what he would look like.
I'm gonna definitely people will call me a fan gnome for some of what I'm about to say. I trust that the story team knows where they're going with it. So I thought the cinematic was really cool. I was a little confused only because like I said, I expect like a big bad to be like, like finally like that cliffhanger at the end of an episode, be like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna take you down. In this one, there were questions, but I still trust where they're going, so I was not disappointed. And I know that the story team has a plan, and
they've got the plan for where they're going. They have to know where they're going. Like the next expansion team is already working on this the minute the Legion ended, so they're working on what's going next. The big rumor mill right now is apparently that we're getting another world revamp in 9.0.
That's not the 4chan thing, right?
Yeah, it was the latest 4chan post. But in terms of where the big lore guys have looked at this, is that when it's talked about her third death, it will usher in the old gods coming. They're now looking at Azshara, with her first death being when she died under the water and was transformed into a Naga. Now she's just had a second death and brought back to life, and then her third death will probably be whenever we face her next.
And are they saying that her third death would bring upon like the apocalypse?
We'll bring around the old gods coming, yes.
And
it's again ties back to one of the Il'gynoth whispers. So,
okay, and just so I can understand better, so by her dying 3 times, they're angry, or it's just part of the prophecy, or
it's part of this prophecy that Il'gynoth's done. Let me bring up the Il'gynoth whispers quickly. But essentially, it was, it's one of the things that Il'gynoth has said. Let me see.
Now, is Il'gynoth talking about Azshara or Sylvanas?
Azshara.
Okay.
Sylvanas has already died more than 3 times.
Okay, then that clears up my question. So
some of the whispers that we can go through here. So flesh is his gift. He is your true creator. So we know that that's the curse of flesh that that's referring to. To find him, drown yourself in the circle of stars. So that would be die where we are in the thing, in the last fight for in the Eternal Palace. The King of Diamonds has been made a pawn, which again is divulged to us by Azshara in that boss fight. The Lord of Ravens will turn the key. So there's been no real thing that we know about this, but it's been people think that we're going to see more Medivh, or it could be that Khadgar's going to make another appearance. The Boy King serves at the master's table. 3 lies will he offer you. So this has been a couple of things, especially if you play the Horde campaign. You see mention of Sylvanas saying that Anduin has lied to his people and various bits of pieces. So interestingly enough, there could be something where Anduin has been slyly pushed as well. Her heart is a crater and we have filled it. A lot of people thought that this was referring to Jaina and her sadness. But it's actually Azeroth itself is what it could be referring to. 5 keys to open our way, 5 torches to light our path is obviously a reference to the Titan items that we found during Legion.
Okay. Yes. All the different zones.
Yep. And at the hour of her third death, she will usher in our coming, which means that there is probably going to be a big old god thing when Azshara dies for a 3rd time, is what the lore guys now think. From the earth, he draws strength. Our earth, our strength. Assumably, this could be Thrall, but he's lost his shaman powers, I assume. So one would believe that is now talking about Magni, maybe, or there's something else going on there. And then its surface blazes bright, masking shadows below. Now, I'm assuming that talks about the heart of Azeroth, as we talked previously last week, that it's been turned more into a dragon soul, which has old god's shadows underneath. Or it could be talking about Azerite in general, because every time we see Azerite out in the world, it's a very bright gold and everything else.
And just so I can, for me and for anybody listening, these whispers, these are from this raid, or they're from a different place?
No, they're from the Emerald Nightmare. They're from the Eye of Il'gynoth, yeah.
Because I was just trying to make sure that I was catching where this was, and I saw that. So yeah, this is a Legion raid.
Yeah. However, I will tell you this: I was randomly AFKing on my flying mount in Nazjatar yesterday evening, close to where the Void Tenders are, near the Harvesters, all the little eggs and that. It's like in the northeast area of the zone, and in about two different half-hour periods, I got 2 whispers. Now, bear in mind, I don't have the N'Zoth helm on, and it was just an unknown presence was whispering to me.
Interesting.
I'm gonna see if I can find
Was this
for it.
Have you cleared the raid on your
Not yet.
on your character?
No.
Okay, so this is before your character would have seen the cinematic.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just trying to see if I can find something regarding this, but it doesn't look like it.
Because I have the eye, and I've been hearing whispers every once in a while in different areas, and the areas that I've been getting whispers are very interesting when I've been getting them. I can't hear what it's saying, but N'Zoth's been whispering to me a lot.
He'll do that. He'll do that. He'll have a chat about you. So it's
we don't kill Titan's Creed yet. Later on.
Will you stop talking to the tentacle helm, please?
I'm sorry. And I'll get you a Frosty later.
So there was actually an entire post about 6 days ago after the cinematic came out over on Wowhead regarding Ashara's third death and the final boss of BFA. It was a whole cinematic analysis and everything else and bits and pieces. So there's no real talk on any of the new whispers yet. So I'm not sure if this is something that I've just stumbled across, but it is really interesting that no one really is talking about this at the moment. But
there is an eerie aspect to Nazjatar. I mean, not to say that it's Queen Nazjar, but there's something off about the whole zone, in a cool way, that you can tell a presence is there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's there's definitely something, and they're obviously working with the Void and the Old Gods and everything else, and it all leads towards what this 4chan post was really pointing towards, with how it's going to be easier to get everybody on one page, because then the story's easier to write when the faction imbalance isn't there anymore. So,
I agree, because was it you or somebody else would have the fact that we have changed that because of social media, because of Discord, there's really no real reason for the faction divide. And
I think it was something that we might have talked about a couple of episodes ago.
And with WoW possibly declining in subs, I would say too, there's no reason to divide factions. I mean, when WoW is the only king in game and stuff like that, you could have divided factions of communities. But now, let's all come together as players. Let's find a way some way to retcon PvP to work where you can still fight against the Horde and do all that stuff. They'll make it work. But I would love just to see the faction somehow go away.
I think it'd be cool. Again, a lot of this stuff with this apparent leak of information leads to the cities being given a touch up, essentially, to make them look more racial themed and everything else. Whether we see a proper return of the park, so now that Night Elves and the Worgen have somewhere to stay, would be interesting. But if it means that, like, the battlegrounds are really the only PvP type thing that exists other than war mode, and it's just kept to honorable battles, and it means that, we can party and group up with a Horde and Alliance people in the same group, because mercenary mode is already a thing. But if it means that we could find everybody in, like, the dungeon finder, it would alleviate a lot of queues very quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, we have to be realistic. Subs have dropped with WoW. I mean, even from its peak. I'm talking about this from its peak, and not even just a backlash reaction to BFA and subs just have dropped. There's a lot of competition. Final Fantasy 14 has been kicking butt. I mean, so it makes no sense to have barriers on player groups.
Yeah.
Like there were. I still would love, very impossible dream, I would love to get rid of all realms and go to one mega server. Again, that's a very impossible dream.
It is a very
but
impossible dream. Who knows, though, with how layering tech will work in Classic, because if it works properly, then mega servers might actually be more of a dream. The problem, again, comes with names and everything else.
Yeah.
But
I'll be fine being Frazley 5543. So,
well, I mean, especially if you're going to turn Mechanome, I guess that would be more fitting.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's a good chat. I want to talk about the Race to World first. So
yes, because last time we had Method and Red Bull splitting ways because of a couple of different differences and the Twitch chat, and then two developments that have come up with that. So we had over the weekend, Red Bull announced their coverage, and they're working with Limited Pieces, which is what Sco had mentioned in their chat. And then, did you see today? Some people from Limit are working with Red Bull and with Method. So
there are a couple of guilds that are available on both streams. One of the big ones right now is Big Dumb Guild. As we're recording this, they'd already done some heroic splits. They decided to go to the Behemoth first rather than Radiance Visharas, whereas Limit went to Radiance. So Limit got the world first on Radiance, and Big Dumb Guild got the world first on the Behemoth itself, the big underwater fish. Limit kept on pushing Ashara, whereas Big Dumb Guild took a few tries and decided to go get more gear. So they're now at a higher item level, we think, than Method, and they're back to pushing Ashvane at the moment, which is cool. So, but they're available on both stream sides, which is interesting. But what we thought was still going to be true. I mean, Method stream has got about 3 times the amount of pull as the Red Bull stream does. The Limit streams itself has more viewers than the Red Bull thing, handing credence to the fact that the guilds themselves actually hold more of a push rather than Red Bull, which is probably not going to see a good turnaround on Red Bull's part, but who knows, it might lead to more people just working with Method itself while still doing their own streams, because it looks like it's a setup where they've got screen shares or like they're restreaming the actual content with permission. So it could be interesting. It's been an interesting watch. I've had the Red Bull on bot muted because I don't recognize half the casters, whereas the casters on the Method side is stuff like Preach and Bay, so Final Boss, Preach Gaming, a couple of other guys as well. There's a lot there, and those are the type of casters I enjoy watching anyway, and like watching their content. So it's just stuff. Whereas the other guys just seem to be WoW streamers of different levels. Like, I know that there was a couple of streamers on the Red Bull side who haven't touched 7.2 or like BFA or live servers, and they did a couple of days streaming to catch up with all the information. But
wow.
all of the big people who had played 7.2 were either already tapped to go to Method, or were already going to go to Method, or were raiding Mythic themselves, so they didn't want to go and not be able to raid. So that's that.
7.2 was quite a long.
Sorry.
I was like, wow, they haven't touched 7.2. Wow, they've really not been playing for a long time.
There's a lot of guys, a lot of the big casters that are over on the Red Bull side are people who are specifically classic players.
Okay, wow.
But they're big in the WoW community, so that's why they've been tapped.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense. You want somebody that can hopefully bring names to what you're doing.
True, but it's between classic and BFA, they're very different games.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
It's interesting though. I've been watching it, and it reminds me a lot of when I was doing Mythic progression back in the day, or Heroic progression, because Mythic wasn't available just yet. Was it? Yeah, it was. No, Mr. Pandaria Heroic. Yeah, it wasn't available until the end of that, but it was good fun. I enjoyed Mythic progression and everything else. I'm doing this again, but it's a long push. Like, I don't think I could do Bleeding Edge Mythic raiding.
No, and are they the ones who they have people on shifts?
Sorry?
I thought at one point, I thought like with some of these, like they have like people are raiding, and then people are sleeping, and then people wake up. The people that are
so the way it works is that Method are now, instead of just pushing all the time, they decided to do day raiding, which they've decided since this expansion. So they just keep a normal sleep schedule essentially. So they get up when the server resets. They'll go and do 8 hours with a lunch break in between and do it. But they've got benches, and they've got people farming islands and Mythic pluses in the background until they're needed to jump in, just to go and get stuff done. I don't know. There's a lot there to be done, really. But no, I don't think anybody really pushes. Like, I think guilds still go take sleep and everything else after a big old push. But we'll see. At time of recording, EU has got 7 hours until the raids are open, and that's when I assume Method will be pushing after they open their boxes and everything else. They might decide to go and push Heroic first to try and get that extra little bit of gear, considering that with the fact that all the actual guilds are streaming, they know that they're going to need even more gear for Ashvane. So what they've been able to do is they've been able to use the last day of the reset in the EU. Thank you, US beta testers. To get the extra set of gear that they needed to try and, burn coins and everything else to get that gear level. And then they'll probably try the Heroic push tomorrow before they go into Mythic, or because, if guilds are still stuck at Ashvane, then there's no real worry. The only thing they're going to be missing out on is time to perfect a strategy and bits and pieces. Now, the thing about BOD, if you look at the World First Race for Desire Law, it was pretty much a one boss raid. Like, everything seemingly went down quickly with the exception of Jaina, and then Crucible of Storms was obviously very different because there was no gear increase, so it was just about making the raid hard, whereas this is a gear increase on a new level of tier. So with the fact that Ashvane is such a DPS check, that it could mean that either everything after it will go down really quickly, which could be why they did a hotfix change to the way the fifth boss works in there, the Orgazoa, I want to say, because they changed her phase 2 transition from a 3.5 minute to 40% health, so that as gear progresses, it feels more natural to push through it rather than being time restricted. Because otherwise you'll just get to a point later on as gear progresses and expansions move on that you'll beat it before it transitions to phase 2. So stuff like that. Yeah. But we'll see as it goes. I'm definitely gonna. I've got this to edit, and then I'll be calling it a day, and then I'll probably be up first thing in the morning to try and watch the world first race continue. but we'll see how it goes. So,
And I've tried to not get into like a camp of one versus the other, because I think it's fun that there's this competition. It's fun because it's going to raise it for everybody if everybody's competing. And like, what's cool is right now in a window, I don't follow all this because I don't always follow sports, but it's cool that I can see 2 different streams right now going of multiple stuff. So I mean, really, we win in this whole race for the world first. And
yeah,
like,
this is what we talked about last week. It's the consumer of the product wins.
Yeah.
The only way you can get better for the competitors involved is if we finally get a global release for raid tiers, the same way that we have a global release for the game now.
Yeah, and I can see that coming. I think maybe they want to do the game to make sure that that's working. I think at some point we could see a global release for everything. And did you see that WoW actually tweeted out about the race for the world first?
Yeah, they linked both Red Bull and the Method stream.
So they acknowledged it, because Kaden was saying it's typically after the fact. Congratulations, but WoW is actually saying, "Hey, go watch these." So that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's because they're taking more of a stance, saying that it is a thing, because Blizzard is taking more of a stance to try and make their PvE competitive. That's why we actually have the Mythic Dungeon Invitational, the MDI. So like, they know that it can be made competitive, and they know the race for World First is competitive, and they know Crucible of Storms lasted a week, while the MDI is something that can take over several weeks / months to get to placements and everything else, whereas this can be however long, and only Blizzard knows how they've internally tuned things, so
yeah. And that's a much more controllable environment, whereas like we said last week, this is harder to be like, because stuff could turn, and you could even have a guild that's not even covered when the race for the world first.
Yeah,
I mean, there could be some unknown guild out there who's been working for a long time. Now, what is there a possibility that there is a guild we don't even know? I mean, like, or do we have this tracked well enough that somebody's able to see in some API?
There's always a way for a guild to get through the cracks, but if anybody really wants to push world first and they want that kill, they'll immediately get the guys who did the kill to log out quickly to rebuff the server, and then WoW Progress will track that. So WoW Progress always tracks the guild kills and everything else. So, and there's if you actually go to I've actually got the link here. If you go to method.gg/raid progress, there's an actually I say it's live updated. You have to refresh it every time to try and catch up with stuff, but there's it basically shows you at the top bar. It shows you the kills on each of the bosses. If you click it, it tells you who got the world first kill. I believe the front page will also be updated with that, but then there's updates by Starim, who generally just updates with the kills that teams get, and all that information is generally pulled from WoW Progress.
Okay, so it's a lot harder for you to be like have been far, because some API is going to track it somewhere, and someone's going to see that.
So if a US guild that's not streaming it decided to come out of nowhere and manages to kill Lady Ashvane, they'll immediately get their raiders to log out, and then it'll push the armory, and then WoW Progress, because there's always going to be someone that's there refreshing the top kills, and then if a guild comes through with having killed Ashvane that's not on the stream, then all of a sudden they'll be added to Wowhead, it'll be added to method.gg, and then people do it. It's like Pieces didn't stream for Crucible of Storms, so no one knew where their progression was at, and then all of a sudden, bam, they killed Unet on Mythic. So it's interesting. The entire race to world first and the streaming thing is very, very interesting, very good to see, especially this time through. Where we've got lots of different variety in terms of the streams. of who's streaming and everything else, it also means that we get a lot of continuous content. Like both the Method and the Red Bull streams are 24/7 streams until the World Versus is over.
Wow.
Because we're going to have US, and the US will probably call it a day when the EU guys open, and then you'll have the EU guys go for about 12 hours, and then the US guys will probably go for 12 hours.
That is amazing. And yeah, seeing the production quality of both streams, I'm like, that's impressive. And also, so as a caster, the gear they have, like, oh, that looks amazing.
It is good. I'm looking forward to see how it develops, and we'll probably talk more if the Race to World First is continuing, or if it's finished by the time we sit down next time.
Yes.
And talk more Azerothian bits and pieces. But yeah, what are your goals for the next week, Mr. Fraz? I presume aiming to hit Revered?
Yep. I'm just going to keep plugging away at the different dailies and stuff like that. Like I'm probably going to log in after this and just push through on a few things. Because I'm trying to clear dailies, trying to clear, like, because by doing that, I am making progress. So, and then once I get flying, who knows what I'm going to do after that. But yeah, that's my goal, is like just that 1 hour a day. And when I'm not streaming, I'm listening to podcasts. So I'm kind of getting caught up on because there's a lot of great podcasting content, including this one.
There is a lot of great podcasting content. I'll tell you that much. I'll tell you something else I did do today, which I forgot I didn't talk about. I actually did the heroic Warfront in the Battle for Stromgarde.
The heroic opened up. I had because I did not know that was because that was not in the patch notes, so I didn't know that actually did come out.
Heroics are available. The quest is available once you finish the quest for the normal Warfront for the week. So, but it is pre-made only. It's interesting. It's a very different level of difficulty, and you actually have the opposing boss attack as well. So it's very interesting how it pushes. So I'm going to be interested to see how heroic Darkshore goes when that opens up.
Yeah. Could you see a heroic or a mythic version of this?
I hope not. But if there's demand for it, it wouldn't surprise me if Blizzard decide to do it. But I really hope they don't do mythic. Heroic is good enough, you know.
Yeah.
It already gives, like, the quest for doing it in the week already gives a full 30 bit of gear and like 1,000, I think 1,500 Azerite. So I don't think there needs to be a mythic version. I think it adds too much to it, and heroic's a decent level of difficulty for what's already there. That will change as people get more gear, but it's good for what it is. But yes, Mr. Frazley, that I think we're about time for this week right now. It's been a nice little chat.
Yeah.
Where can people around the internet who listen to this show but don't know who you are, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Frazleytastic, and then every week you can find me at gnomepodcast.com. I just talked with Allie's husband Brandon. Had a great talk about D&D, gaming, and cars. So
Ooh.
Always fun, and what I love about it is being able to learn more about people, figure out what makes that person tick, and not just the tick in their ear.
Fair enough. You can find me, guys, as always, around the internet at Titans Creed for my main Twitter. You can find me at Gaming Phoenix for my anything gaming related and bits and pieces. You can find this podcast on all the good podcasting websites, as well as you can find the vidcast of it, which is streamed live on Twitch. You can find it on youtube.com/Project Phoenix Productions on a weekly basis, and you can find me on Twitch streaming about 5 days a week on twitch.tv/Project Phoenix Productions. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. It's been another fantastic episode of Stories Around Azeroth. We'll be back sometime in the next week with the next episode. Hopefully we'll be back to our normal scheduled show, unless something arises in personal life. Until then, though, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Frazley does always like to say,
Be awesome.
Indeed. Be awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Thank you very much for joining us. Until next time.